Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Pflegebedürftig, dem Podcast zu Datenqualität, Informationsqualität, Stammdatenmanagement. Auch heute habe ich wieder einen Vortrag mitgebracht vom DataCampus, der ja in 2019 stattgefunden hat in Hamburg. Und da haben Richard Branch und Florian Dissen berichtet, wie sie mit ihren Produkten Herausforderungen aus dem DM-Umfeld angegangen sind. Es geht da um einen Data Hub, der aufgebaut wurde und wie das Ganze mit welchen Schwierigkeiten und mit welchen Lösungen angegangen wurde. Also viel Spaß auch mit diesem Vortrag.
My pleasure, Richard, to having you here again. Second time, no home meeting, and probably not the last one, I hope. And just go ahead.
Okay.
We are excited about what you bring us today.
Thank you very much, Mark. So, yes, good afternoon, everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here. As Mark says, my second of the know-how meetings. Just a quick around the room. How many were at the first meeting that I presented at last year? So, probably about half of you. Okay, that's interesting. So, what I thought I would do is I'll give you a quick introduction. My name is Richard Branch from Semarkey. I also have a colleague, Florian Dissen from Solita. It's Solita, Germany, and that's an interesting thing which we will cover in a few moments. But I thought I would give you a quick recap on what's happened with Semarkey in the last year. If you remember, when I stood up and I did the company slam, we had 60 seconds in which to present, and I told you a bit about our vision, our background, where we'd come from. So rather than go through all of that again, I'll just give you a quick cover of what's happened in the last year. It's been a very busy year for Semarkey. We've added new team members, not just to my team in the UK, but throughout the US and France. So, and that from our customers' perspective, that's new team players, not just in sales and marketing, but also in support, in training and research and in development. So key people added to the team. Obviously, we continue to present and we tweet and we blog, and hopefully you've seen us on social media. And so Mark asking if it's okay for us to put this onto, I guess, YouTube or something is very apposite, because that's exactly what we would like to be doing to promote us. And of course, we've got new customers. Many new customers have joined the group of people using XDM, as it says, around the world, UK, France, North America, etc., and of course in Germany. So I think it was reminded to me that since I presented this time last year, we've now added a customer here in Germany, so that's really good news. And those customers have really supported us well. And I know Mark didn't want a sales pitch, but this is something I am particularly proud of. As you know, we run on the cloud, we run on-premise. On the cloud, we are voted as #1 on Amazon Web Services or Amazon Marketplace. And also, I don't know if you're familiar with the Gartner Peer Insights, but it's kind of, in Germany, do you get a thing called TripAdvisor? Yeah. So Insights is a bit like TripAdvisor for software. And people can anonymously put their reviews of products about support, the technical features, the functionality, etc., etc. And we actually came out as #1. And in fact, you can see there, Semarkey is number 1 with 57 reviews, just above, well, in fact, well above SAP and Informatica. I'm actually doing myself down there. We had 57 reviews, SAP and Informatica on 23, Stebo on 22. So again, that was a tremendous accolade for us. And if you think where we've come from over the last 6 or 7 years as a startup, we were very proud of that. So the other thing that we have done this year, in the last 12 months, or 9 months since 11 months since I was last here, we've released version 5 of the software. And I know this is important to our customer there. And one of the key things on this is the support for Microsoft SQL Server. So we now run the repository for our Master Data Hub now runs on a variety of different databases. Our background was Oracle. We're now also on Postgres, which is open source, and we're now on Microsoft SQL Server for the Microsoft people. And also we now support Microsoft Azure Cloud. So we're going very much supporting the Microsoft shops and houses there. But also, as it says, we've added dashboarding, which gives you an insight into the actual quality of the data that you've got within the Master Data Hub and analysis of that data. We've added full comprehensive REST APIs, and we've generally improved the user experience for the product. So all of that's gone into version 5. And as a result of all of that, we've got some tremendous recognition, I guess you would say, from Gartner and Forrester. In fact, I love the pictures that we've got up there. Is there anyone here from Gartner? I saw there's a gentleman with the surname Gartner, but I'm trusting you're not from Gartner. Because the reason we use this picture, I don't know if you can see the little cat. As CEO, he's quite an artistic character. And we actually wanted to put the Magic Quadrant. I'm assuming you're all familiar with the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And Gartner, as you know, they're a money-making organization. Just to use the quadrant on a slide, they wanted to charge us some money. Well, they wanted to charge us $145,000 per year to use the Magic Quadrant, to which you can imagine our CEO said, whoa, hang on. So we found a little cat. The little raindrop happens to be where we're positioned on the quadrant. And so far, we've not been challenged by that. Forrester then came along, and we were positioned very, very well on the Forrester Wave. It's a similar idea to the Gartner Magic Quadrant. You have strength of offering up one side, and you have strength of vision across the other. And in fact, we were so far to the right in terms of our vision that Forrester didn't even put a dot. They just put an arrow pointing to Semarchy. But the little man with the red rucksack on the far right-hand side of that, I think that's an Iron Age Fortworks, is where we are on the Forrester Wave. So we saved another $145,000. So not only do we produce good software, but we saved $300,000 with that slide. And as it says, we came #1 in the Gartner Peer Insights. So this was all happened in the last 12 months. The other good bit of news is, I'm assuming that you won't know of Solita. They are a very, very strong systems integration software company and software services company based out of Finland, Tampere and Helsinki. They then, during the year, opened in Stockholm and now Gothenburg. And then 3 weeks ago, they opened in Germany. We've already done good business with Solita. They really understand our product. They've got a great bunch of technicians. We already have 2 customers with them, one of whom I spotted, I think, on a Riversand slide earlier today. So clearly they use Semarchy and Riversand, a car manufacturer in Sweden. And it's not Saab because they don't make cars anymore. So I just want to quickly ask Florian to come to the front and grab the microphone, because Florian is my secret weapon. He speaks German.
Do I have to speak German?
You don't have to, but
Right,
it will kind of spoil my joke if you don't.
Ja, wie Rich gesagt hat, ich bin seit 3 Wochen verantwortlich für die Geschäfte von Solita in Deutschland. Das war heute mein erster offizieller Auftritt. Also vielen Dank, Richard, dafür. Und vielen Dank dafür, dass ihr die Informationen, die ihr so großzügig geteilt habt. Das war wirklich super für mich, einen ersten Eindruck für den deutschen Markt zu bekommen. Und ich möchte Solita kurz vorstellen. Also wir sind eine Transformationsberatung, die 2 Fokusbereiche hat: Daten und die Schaffung von Kundennutzen. Uns gibt es seit 1996, jetzt mit fast 900 Mitarbeitern, vor allen Dingen in den nordischen Ländern. Und wie Richard gesagt hat, ist seit 3 Wochen in Deutschland. Wenn es um Daten geht, sehen wir 3 Aufgaben, die wir zusammen mit unseren Kunden lösen müssen. Die erste Aufgabe ist, wir müssen unseren Kunden helfen zu verstehen, was für ein Asset sie mit ihren Daten haben. Also wie können wir Wachstum generieren, wie können wir Unlock Growth. Die zweite Aufgabe, die wir sehen, ist dann eben zusammen mit unseren Kunden die Datenfähigkeiten aufzubauen. Und dann an 3. Stelle geht es darum, die Finnen sagen immer Achieve Measurable Impact. Ich sage dazu, wir müssen schnell Nützliches, Gutes und Neues zu den Kunden bringen, weil alles andere ist Bullshit. Und wir versuchen da mit agilen Methoden, mit Lean-Methoden hier auch in Deutschland erfolgreich zu sein. Und unsere Vision ist, wir glauben ganz fest an die kollektive Intelligenz von Menschen und Maschinen. Und da haben wir einen sehr holistischen, sehr nordischen Ansatz, bei dem eigentlich in jedem Projekt der Mensch oder die menschlichen Bedürfnisse im Vordergrund stehen. Also wir haben fast 200 Berater und Service Designer aus allen Fachbereichen. Wir haben Design Thinker, wir haben Service Designer, wir haben Innenarchitekten, wir haben Ethnologen, wir haben Psychologen, die verstehen, was der Kunde braucht und was die Kunden unserer Kunden brauchen. Dann haben wir über 200 Entwickler im Front- und Backend, die dann basierend auf den Erkenntnissen der Designphase digitale Services entwickeln können. Und dann als drittes eben Data Analytics und Artificial Intelligence und Managed Cloud Services und Data Ops. Also wenn man die Services ein bisschen besser aufsortiert, Business Enablement, Technical Enablement und Organizational Enablement. Ich habe ganz viel da oben in der linken Ecke zu tun, also den Kunden zu verstehen, was sind die Probleme, die sie eigentlich lösen wollen und was sind die Assets, die sie haben. Dann als nächstes die Solution Implementation und Operation und schlussendlich die Data Operations. Und was ich toll fand, heute zu sehen, ist, was ich mit meiner Erfahrung als Business Consultant entdeckt in 15 Jahren ist, dass viele Projekte scheitern, wenn die Unternehmen es nicht schaffen, ihre Organisation um die Daten zu bauen und den Leuten Tools in die Hand zu geben, die tatsächlich nutzbar sind, also die eine gute UX haben. Und deswegen arbeiten wir mit Semarki zusammen, nicht ausschließlich, wir sind technisch agnostisch, würde ich sagen, also mit Dell Boomi haben wir in Skandinavien eine Partnerschaft, mit SnapLogic arbeiten wir zusammen und sind auch für die Service- und Integrationspartner. Und das war eine kleine Einführung zu Solita, Rich. So I'll give back to you, and I will focus on the networking tonight. That's, as you can see, it's just 3 weeks in, so just hit me up, say hello, and let's see what we can do together in Germany, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't need that. So just wanted to do that introduction because it does give you a feel for the way that we're now approaching the German market. But I know that one of the things that Mark always wanted me to do in these presentations is to focus on a real customer. And those of you that were here last year remember that I spoke about one of our customers, French customer, CMA CGM, which is Company Maritime Atlantique, Company Atlantique Generale. I think I got that right, or Company Generale Atlantique. It's the merger of two shipping container companies, second largest shipping line in the world, second only to Maersk. And as we went around the harbour, you may remember there were some of the CMA CGM containers on the ships. Massive customer, they have multiple instances of SAP, they're mastering all of the containers, the locations of those containers, which vessels the container is sitting on, where that vessel is actually in transit on the oceans, and what goods are inside it. So it's a massive, massive master data application that they're running with us. This one is very different, and I thought I picked it because of the difference here. It's kind of at the opposite end of the scale. And in the UK, we have what we call housing associations. I don't know what they would be known as in Germany, but this is basically social housing. And so this one is Thames Valley Housing Association. And they have a number of properties that they then have tenants using those properties. The reason I picked this one is that these two people, Douglas Silverstone and Amy Singh, they make she calls herself Amy. They make the point that neither of them were IT people. Now, if you think back to my minute slam, I said that the vision for Semarki was to create a master data product that was not technically focused, was not IT complex, but was aimed at the business user. Now, Amy has 7 years in accounting, working at TVHA, and she got drawn into doing this work with Semarki. Doug went to the CEO of TVHA and said, hey, wouldn't it be good if we had all this information that's around the organization in one place? And as he now says, be careful what you wish for, because the CEO turned around and said, okay, Doug, you've got the job, go and do it. So these two are a perfect example of how non-technical people can actually build applications in Semarki. And in fact, Since this slide, you shall see, they've put on here that Thames Valley Housing Association, they have 16,000 properties. As you can imagine, therefore, probably more tenants in those properties. They have different suppliers, shared ownership, etc. They're in the process of merging with Metropolitan Housing Association. That's a big London housing association. So they have many, many more properties. And that, again, introduces the complexities of merging systems together. And we've heard about that today. If you think about it from an MDM or a master data perspective, you may think it's simple, but they have residents, people, they have properties, and they have contractors. Now, I guess in MDM terminology, you would think of residents as customers, properties, that's your products, and contractors, that's your suppliers. And each of those have different attributes, different reasons for wanting to use the system. And if we then start to drill down just looking at the properties, it's not simple because these housing associations actually build schemes. They look at plots of land and they'll say, well, this particular council within London owns this many hectares of land. We can build some housing on that. So they have schemes that are being designed and built. They have blocks of properties where they own the whole block. And then they also have where they just own individual units within a block. So the whole thing starts to become complex because, for example, if they only own a unit, they're not responsible for maintaining the entire roof. You start to think of the complexities of this. And the other thing with most of these housing associations is they're very much rooted in the past. They've kind of come from, in the 1960s, social housing was just called council houses. The councils owned them, and they transitioned this kind of into the housing associations who run them much more on a business-like footing. So their systems are very much outdated. I don't know if you have the equivalent of these sort of shops, but this is a representation of an IT shop. Where was the slide that had the 1960s IBM? This is the similar idea. And what Doug wants to do in TVHA is move that to the future so that they can actually answer questions about all of that data very, very quickly. And you'll see at the end of the presentation the plans and ideas and aims that he's got. So when he was looking, he said that his big problem was that most MDM vendors approached him, and this is not a sales pitch, but it's the way we work, it demonstrates our agility, and said, your data is in these silos. And what we can do is pull that data up and master it. So he calls it a push-down system. And as it says, it presupposes that all the data is in the place that he knows where it is. But the problem he had, if you look at this, Post-it notes. This is the real life. When we went in there to start helping him build this, where is your data? He said, well, some of it's in legacy systems, some of it's in spreadsheets, some of it's on Post-it notes pinned to people's walls. A lot of it's in people's heads. So the issue that he faced was then how do you then start to build an MDM system if you don't know where the data is? And that demonstrated, or if you like, that was solved because of the agility and flexibility of our system. So the fact that you can add entities, you can add objects to the database, to the system as you're going along. If you think of more attributes, you can simply add those attributes to the system. And a lot of the systems that he reviewed before he went ahead with us to add a simple attribute, because someone says, oh, in my head, I thought of this piece of information on suppliers, we've not got it in the system, can we add it? You had to unload all the data, break the system, add the attribute on, reload all the data, and then restart the system. And with XDM, it's a very, very simple job. So this kind of demonstrated the flexibility of what we could do. And the other thing is that all of these different people want access to the master data system. So it's people that collect the money. It's the tax inspectors. It's the contractors. It's the repairs people. Everybody accesses this system. It also, as he says, it affects people's lives because the residents that are renting these, the tenants in these properties, A lot of them don't have a great deal of money. If the boiler breaks, they need the boiler fixing. If it's the middle of winter, the boiler breaks in December, it's really cold. And so these were the sort of problems that he was facing. The boiler engineer would turn up and not have the right parts for the boiler because it was a different type of boiler in that property to the one he was expecting. And in fact, the middle one, this is actually 100% true because I know of an instance where someone was locked out and somebody turned up to a locksmith to change the lock, but he brought the wrong things along because he didn't know which type of lock was on that property. So these are all the type of problems that he's solving. And they feel that if Thames Valley Housing can solve these problems for their tenants, then it makes life much better for the tenants. Therefore, they get happier tenants. The other aspect of this that is very true is that MDM is not just a product. I know the MDM people in the room are always saying it's product and it's people, and they sum that up by saying it's an attitude. So you have to get the attitude right when you're embarking on an MDM product. And I know that part of these know-how sessions is looking for feedbacks and takeaways. I think the big takeaway here is getting that attitude right as you embark on the project. And how they did that was involving different people. I mean, it seems simple. Talk to people about what you're doing. Get them enthused about what you're doing. But the stakeholder alignment, it's very important to actually get the people that are spending the money to actually be aligned with the objectives of what you're trying to achieve. A number of times I've been involved in MDM sales where the IT people have said, we really want to do this, but the people that hold the budget haven't yet realized that we're doing it. So you need to involve the stakeholders at an early stage. And then, as you can see, they held workshops in bringing people in, showing them as they were building the system, phase 1, phase 2, they went through an agile methodology of sprints and scrums. At each scrum, they were saying, here's what we've achieved so far, is this what you need from the system? So be all-encompassing as you're building the system is a great way to bring people on board. So, the other thing is that it was a radical change to the way they were doing business because, as you saw, previously people were just holding data in spreadsheets, they were holding data on post-it notes. The people with the spreadsheets became very possessive about their spreadsheet, that's their spreadsheets, rather than putting that information into the MDM system. So again, you have to think about how you are building the systems, or how you're running the systems. And as it says, you have to be prepared to respond to change. This then leads on to the question of mergers, because on the left-hand side, get it correct, when they merged with Metropolitan Housing, each housing association covers a locality, but there's certain areas of overlap. So then they start to think, well, if you think back to the building where they had individual units, are there buildings where Thames Valley Housing owned units and Metropolitan Housing held units? And would the system be able to actually tell them these answers? So then you start to see the use and the value of the system like this. And how they solved that was simply by having, I guess you'd call it in product terminology, a SKU, stock keeping unit. They call it an APRN, that's a unique property reference number, very simple. But each property is given a unique number, and then from that, they can then hang off all this other information about its locality, which building it's in, who the tenant is, which boilers it's got, which locks it's got, etc., etc. So they've built up this huge system based just on this simple UPRN, and that's allowed them. They've now gone on ahead and merged with Metropolitan, so they now have around 90,000 properties, and Douglas's system is now in use at Metropolitan Housing, so it's been adopted on board on a much bigger scale. So, their vision for the future, and as I say, they've got a lot of great ideas. They really want to get tenant interaction, so Craig was talking about a handy, which I think we still call a mobile in the UK. Craig, you've gone American. So they want that, and more tenants have mobile phones these days, so they want to be able to interact. Now, earlier I was showing how we have Semoki XDM working on our mobile phones. I've got all my contracts, my billing systems, everything is all on my mobile phone in a Semoki system. So they're now putting all of this that they have in their MDM system into a mobile application so the tenants can interact with them. Their objective, ultimately, he wants to get all the floor plans into the system so they actually know where the rooms and things are in the properties, and then lead through to some kind of real-time app where if the tenant has a problem, they can simply photograph it, and going back to the boiler, they can say, my boiler's not working, here's a photo. That then gets into the application, gets linked up with the MDM system, so the contractor going out knows exactly where they're going, they know they've got a floor plan, and they know what they're going to fix. So the whole thing then adds complete value through the chain, as it were. The final thing they're doing, and this is kind of an interesting one, is that they're building a tenant happiness chart. Clearly their objective is to have happy tenants look after the properties, and they're trying to get feedback through the MDM system of what people want. And from this, they're now saying they're able to tell, just from the demographics of the tenants, should they build a new sports facility, should they build a football pitch, do they need to look at more doctors' surgeries? And all of that can come through the MDM system because they now have much better and much more accurate information on their systems. So, just some key takeaways. I don't think I'm pretty well on time. Just some key takeaways as it says. They certainly believe, no is not the answer. Anything is possible, and that is certainly their mantra. And as I said at the start of this, it is a guy who'd never worked with data. Well, he'd worked with data, but he'd never worked with IT, and an accountant are building these systems. As it says, make friends, build trust. This goes back to the workshops, showing people as you're going along. Great when they get used to not having a budget. This is Doug all over. He never has the budget to do anything, so he shows the stakeholders what he can do, then asks them for the money, then goes away and builds it. And as it says, go for innovation and deliver agility on the systems. And if people in the organization see what you're delivering, then the whole thing just builds from there and snowballs. So that's really me done. A quick 20-minute, 25-minute romp through the last year, Solita, and one of our customer use cases. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you.